Hey, this is Paul with Collector's Escape, talking a little bit today about collector comic books and how do you know when you're out there looking for deals and yard sales and comic book shops in places where they're having auctions online, how do you know when you're reaching into collectibles, things that are worth more money or going to be able to be sold for higher rates? Well, let me give you just a little bit of back history on the different kinds of comics that are out there. Let's start with Gold Key. Now, Gold Key was from 1962 to 1984. They were part of Western Publishing, and they had a short run, but they did some really cool things. They were the first comic book to run the Star Trek comics. And here's a couple examples of the Star Trek comic books. Now you always know the Gold Key because in the corner, yep, there it is, if I'm pointing to the right place, is a Gold Key. And they were looking to make a more family-friendly comic. And so they did. They had lots of children's cartoon comics. Here's the Wacky Adventures of Cracky, and a lot of classics, So your Edgar Rice Burroughs, Gold Key stories. Here is another Edgar Rice Burroughs, Tarzan of the Apes, which are just awesome. Just a few more that I've pulled out of my stack. Dr. Solar, Man of the Atom. These are awesome. Now, one of the ways you can tell standardly if you're looking at older comic books is the prices. You start with the prices. You know, when you get a comic book where the price is 12 cents, unless you're looking at a reprint, you know you have an older comic, probably one around the 60s or very, very early 70s into the 60s. Here's Mars Patrol. I love these kind of James Bondy, spacey 60s. And Dr. Spectre. Kind of a cool thing, kind of like a Doc Savage, kind of like an Indiana Jones kind of series. Now, in 1979, Gold Key sold their rights to Star Trek to DC Comics and or Marvel Comics, and so they lost that franchise. But they were selling a lot of their assets at that time because they were tapering down. Another classic set is one of the Action Comics. Here's an example of the Action Comics. There's a 1966 Action comic. Here's a 1975 Action comic. And one of the things that Action Comics is known for is bringing in Superman and being the first to make Superman and really start the golden age of comics. And once again, when you're looking at these prices, you see there's the 15 cents on here. Now you're going to know by wear and tear on older comics, but you're also, if it's a brand new, shiny Action Comics, you're probably looking at a reprint. And you go inside, first cover down at the bottom, you're going to see the copyright date, and you're going to be able to see that. Now, another subgroup of the publishing house that did your Star Treks and all your Golden Key, a subgroup of Western publishing, was Whitman Comics. And Whitman Comics I love because they did the Black Hole comic books. Here's some original Black Hole comic books. That one was for the movie. Here's another one for the movie, Black Hole. And then here was a comic book, the attempt to take the story further, which was called beyond the black hole. And we've talked about this before, about comic books that take storylines further from movies or books that they're launching on have longer lives because people want that story to go further. Now, value-wise, Golden Key Comics are a good investment. There are many people who say they're not big giant collectors because Golden Key did a lot of comics based on television series and things like that. But like everything, the value goes up as they get older, and many of those television series became iconic, like Star Trek. And they did the Twilight Zone series, and they did others. So that makes, those things become huge. They're still good collector's editions, and you're still getting something that's 50, 60 years old. And so find those, I grab onto them. Now, other collectors I like are war comics. I collect those, and here's an example of a 1965 war comic. We're looking at, the price is 12 cents. And Fighting Army, another cool one. Marine War Heroes. Really, those are, they're very, very neat. They often are covering World War I, but not always, or World War II, but not always. Sergeant Fury, this is a slightly newer one. It still has age to it. It's 50 cents to purchase it. I like the Sergeant Furies. I like the Sergeant Rock. And here's a collector's edition special 80 page. This is a 1967 Sergeant Rock, and it's larger, and you can see the spine on here. And when you go back and you look through the content of these, it's like a giant flash to the past. All the things that they are selling, all the things that were happening, who were the stars at the time, what kind of things are being promoted. Very, very, very awesome. Here's a 1960 Forbidden Worlds, and this is a mix of war and space and aliens, which I thought was very, very neat. Very, very neat. And one of my favorite 1960s that I pulled out of the pack today is Flyman. Have you ever heard of Flyman? So the Action Comics are older. The Superman coming out around 1938, and but whether it's DC Comics, here's a 1960s version of Superboy, or if it's Whitman Comics, or especially Gold Key Comics in very good condition, and Action Comics, if you find them, and they are originals and not reprints, and you can get them at those kind of $1, $2 yard sale prices, grab them up, bag them up, log them, and then track them. You can do that easily on eBay. You can do it in other places. There are people that may need the one that you have for their set for selling, or if you're looking at 60s versions that are 60 years old already, they're great investments, because in another 20 years they're not going to be worth less. If you take care of them, they're going to be worth more. And so they're just very, very good investments, and they're very, very fun to read. Even today, even all these decades later, these classics are classics for a reason. That's because they're good. My name is Paul for Collector's Escape, talking about comics today. Next time we come back, we're going to be talking about books and buying books on eBay. You don't want to miss that. We'll see you soon. Don't stop collecting, and have a great day.